Hey G, how's it going?
Hey Blair.
We are finally back for another podcast. It
I
has
know
been a while.
it's been a while.
Yeah,
It actually has seemed like we took a few months off, even though after we recorded the podcast just now that you said it's only been a month. Has it?
well, we didn't post anything in July, but the end of June was when we posted the full episode of Valentina.
Mm.
So we've been out. We haven't posted anything for about 5 weeks now, as of the recording of this podcast.
Okay, yeah, well, we've been busy.
We've also been a little lazy too.
Yeah, okay, true.
We
It's
lost
been a hot
motivation
summer.
in the podcast. Honestly, we were actually talking about ending the podcast. And then a friend of mine who listened to the Valentina episode said, I enjoyed this one the most. You guys are really coming into your own. The topics are better, and you're really getting better at it. And I that was kind of the feedback or motivating factor I guess I needed to want to keep doing this. So here we are. So what are we
Yeah,
talking about today,
we
Gary?
talked about a lot of stuff in this podcast. We talked about the trip that we took down to Philadelphia for the Too Many Games Game Expo.
And Daniel Pesina, meeting Daniel Pesina, that was awesome.
Meeting Daniel Pesina, who is the OG actor for the Mortal Kombat. He played Johnny Cage and
Johnny
the two ninjas.
Scorpion.
Okay, Blair, let's not get lame here.
Okay, I'll stop doing that.
Okay,
We
yeah,
also
please.
talked about our conversation with Valentina about ERGs and sort of the cultural stuff that's going on sort of in workplaces and just in the West at large. I rambled on a whole bunch about that. Hopefully it wasn't boring.
No, well, it was a lot to take in. I guess, yeah, like as somebody that doesn't necessarily involve himself in that kind of stuff all the time. Yeah, it was there's a lot to take in, lots to learn, obviously. So.
Then we also talked about what video games I'm playing.
Oh yeah, and the video
Gary
games that I'm
doesn't
not
play
playing.
any.
It's like, yeah.
And we talked a lot about rock climbing, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, rock climbing is the new thing in the Gary's life, thanks to you, Blair.
And we also talked about martial arts, but getting back into it, which kind of went along with the conversation with Daniel Pesina, or about Daniel Pesina.
Yeah, I'm glad he was able to inspire you. But
he definitely inspired me.
All those things, yeah, coming up in this podcast that we're about to.
And finally, we actually talked about the game we're working on. We weren't just talking about everything else but the game. We did talk a little bit about that.
Well, that is what this podcast is all about. Just
definitely
with game developers working on a game and other stuff that happens in and around it with their lives, I guess.
Hoping you all come along for the ride and are enjoying our random conversations. And if you do, be sure to like and subscribe. We definitely love having you listen. And I hope you enjoy this episode. So how's it going, G?
Oh yeah, it's been going good. It's been a while since we've recorded a podcast, so yeah, it's kind of cool to kind of do this again.
Yeah, we took a month off after Valentina, but I think that break
has it only been a month.
Well, we didn't publish anything in July, and we're in August now, so.
Okay. What did you do all summer, Blair?
What did I do all summer? Well, I went to Canada and I went to California, and let me tell you something, G. Flying sucks right now.
Yeah, I know. Because so what I went to New York.
To you. Oh, okay. What do you want to say?
Oh, I was just saying that. Yeah, I went to New York this summer to visit you again.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Well, yeah. We'll definitely talk about that. So there was we did Too Many Games together.
Yeah. So Too Many Games is an expo they had in Philadelphia.
Outside Philly, they have the greater Philly area, which
I looked it up. We were actually in Oaks, Pennsylvania. That's where we were at.
Okay.
Not really much out there except, like a Target, and I think there was a hardware store.
There were no
what was that restaurant that we had to go to every day for lunch?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a chain restaurant. Although the first night we went there, we went to the barbecue place.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you enjoyed it more than me. You had more hard alcohol than me. I think I was drinking beer there.
You probably were drinking beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was also like kind of the end of the night, so like I couldn't get like like good brisket. I just kind of got like what was left over, so they had to kind of make it in a sandwich form. It was still good though. So
yeah, we got the leftover sandwich form of their normal menu, and we couldn't actually go there during the day. But what was that place called again? I feel like we should call it out.
oh man, I have no idea what it was called.
All right, well, we'll look that up and post the comments later, or post it on the description or whatever.
Yeah, it was a fun vibe.
Oh yeah, Too Many
It was
Games is
definitely
awesome. I was very skeptical about wanting to go all the way down to Philly for this thing, because I compare everything to MagFest by default, and that's probably not a good thing to do. But this was like MagFest Junior in some ways. Like the quality of the people who were attending were super kind, and they loved the game.
Yeah, we had quite a few players. Our game does have kind of some adult themed jokes, so I was a little embarrassed sometimes. Like I guess when kids would sit down and play, and then the parents would be just like right behind them. Yeah, you might have noticed I just kind of got up and started walking around.
Yeah, you walked away and left me there alone, you jerk.
Well, I was still in the area. I was just watching from behind.
It's like I'm not dealing with this, dude.
It's too good though.
But no, we got a lot of people who joined the Discord as a result of that, and people who added us to the wish list, and just a lot of positive feedback. I fixed a ton of bugs. Like I basically coded the entire time I was there, which was kind of nice because that's what I like.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, like this time we had chairs to set up, and then we made it work with the.
Well, we bought new stools, so
I just walked over to Target and bought stools because I guess when we tried to like go grab some chairs and set them down.
Oh, we got in trouble. Our wrist got slapped so hard. Other people did it, but they wouldn't let us do it.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's a minor complaint.
Do you still have those stools?
They're in storage downstairs.
All right, yeah, maybe we should bring those with us to.
We'll bring them from MagFest.
MagFest, yeah.
Yeah. So what else happened at Too Many Games, Gary?
Okay, well, we actually ran into Daniel Pacina at the hotel bar. He was just sitting there drinking Manhattans, and we had to go say hi.
That was incredible. So
for those of you that don't know who Daniel Pacina is, he is the original actor that played Johnny Cage, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion for the original Mortal Kombat game. Yeah.
I don't know if he did 3, but he definitely did 1 and 2, right?
I might have done 3. I'm not 100% sure. I think they did recast a lot of people in 3, so yeah, maybe he was just 1 and 2. But yeah, were you actually surprised that I was able to recognize him?
I was surprised you were able to recognize him. Now, for those of you, well, no one who listens to this podcast knows that Gary and I actually have a martial arts background. When we were kids, we both trained in Kung Fu. In Regina, Saskatchewan, there's this, we found we live in Chorleyfoot. Gary's teacher was the master of my teacher, of my sifu. And so I learned from Gary's teacher's disciple, but Gary learned from the source. Well, not the source of Chorleyfoot, but the source in Regina.
Yeah.
And it was that was awesome. I don't know. I was an undisciplined kid. I tend to, when I was young, I tend to quit things pretty readily. But
no, you actually you stuck with it for
a long time.
A good number of years. Like most people just kind of do it for like just a few months and then stop, right?
No, I kept doing it for it was 6 full years, because by after high school I stopped.
Yeah. And I guess like when you're young, like you tend to like start and stop things. Like I think like for me, I started and stopped plenty of times.
Yeah, it was so good. I mean,
life
looking back on it, that was fun. And you're doing it again?
Well, I'm doing kickboxing now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
like, I think like right before, for me, like, yeah, right before the pandemic, I had a friend that also like kind of trains, and he just was inviting me over to this like little gym in his condo building, and then we would just, you know, kick pads and spar and stuff. And yeah, at some point, like we just started kind of going to a kickboxing gym and just taking lessons from the instructor there. So it's been pretty fun.
that's awesome.
Enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. So I looked up, I mean, there's a studio 3 blocks from where I live here in Queens. And I messaged him yesterday. There's an itch, like ever since we met Daniel. And for Daniel is an awesome human being. Like,
He is
let's
really
talk about
good.
that for a little bit. So we talked about Mortal Kombat fairly substantial with Daniel, the mysticism. He claims that the rumor that was started about it being targeted for Jean-Claude Van Damme actually was not true. They just
Mm.
used that for marketing. And he had a lot of influence on the creativity and the creative flow of the game, and brought in a lot of the Chinese martial arts and mysticism to the storyline, which was pretty freaking awesome. And then we karaoke'd with that bastard.
You made us sing NSYNC. So
Yeah,
like, I don't know,
he's like,
karaoke
bye,
is
bye,
something
bye.
that like, yeah, you would never get Blair to do.
No, I have to be very drunk. And I
Well,
was
were you
not
very
drunk
drunk?
enough that night. I was too sober, but I would probably do anything for Daniel Casino.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, it was awesome because yeah, like as soon as we mentioned that, yeah, we used to take Charlie Phat, his eyes lit up because Chinese martial arts is his thing.
Yeah, and when you went up to him the next day at the expo and just basically say bye to him, and he told you that I hope your friend needs to get back into it, that affected me, I think. Like, that's been on my mind ever since.
Oh no,
And
you have to go and try it out. You have to go and do it now.
I am gonna go do it, but I'm almost like, I need surgery. I mean, I have to get a hernia surgery, nothing major, but also, you know, surgery is not fun for anyone who's ever had it before. So I'm kind of nervous about that, and going back into something that's going to be fairly physical and a lot of fighting and stuff. I'm kind of concerned about getting injured because my body in general, my genetics seem to preclude me to get injured easily.
Oh wow, yeah, that sucks.
It does, but I'm still doing it. I got to do it. Like, it's just burning in me. I need to go try this. I don't know if I'll stick with it, but I got to try.
Yeah, I think that's the first step, is just kind of going into it and figuring out what, you know, whether you like it or not, right?
Yep. I mean, I always like martial arts. I can't see myself not liking it, but whether or not I'll stick with it is another question.
Yeah, like I do find it like hard, like as an adult now, right? Because it's tough to find time to
Yeah.
train. And yeah, it's even tougher in the summer. It gets really hot in there.
You need an air conditioning unit, Gary.
Yeah, in my apartment. Yeah.
Yeah. You just need to just finally buy something.
Yeah. Well, I was actually looking for those like portable air conditioning units, and they're like sold out in the city.
What? Oh wow. Oh, it's supply chain issues.
No, I think they just get snatched up as soon as
Can you order anything off Amazon or?
I probably can. I just haven't looked.
Hmm. All right, gee, what else have we been up to? I mean, that's a lot. That expo was so fun. I would go back.
Yeah, that was, yeah. Like I think I would be up for going back. Like it wasn't easy hauling around all that stuff.
No, it was a pain in the ass. That really sucked actually, but
I think, yeah, we have to think about, like, especially the monitors. That was probably the hardest thing to kind of move around, especially the one that didn't have a box.
That was yours, right? Because I had.
No, the one that I carried, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're both. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah. So we don't have. We actually we were tagged in some pictures on Twitter. We actually don't have any pictures on Instagram or that we've posted on Twitter of the event, which was probably kind of short-sighted of us. So how's social media going, Gary? This is your space now.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Well, like yeah, I hooked us up with a social media managing software. So yeah, we're just gonna do scheduled posts from now on.
So when's the next picture going to be posted?
Once I figure out what I want to put up, I think I want to post a picture of a battle scene. What
All
do you
right.
think?
Post something of someone oh yeah, post two. Post like combat, like maybe just, them in their idle positions while they're waiting for the meter to go up. And then post like action and post some.
Yeah, I want to post something of like elbow setting with someone on fire. Yeah, that's what I want to do.
That's I need to send you the build with all of the magic.
Yeah, I need to get a special build where I can like warp anywhere in the game that I want, and not get killed.
Well, I can send you every save file you need, because the game is now set up that there's something that I call save mode on, which anytime you save the game or have an autosave triggered, it actually saves into a separate folder. So we have that data that we can go back and use whenever we want.
Oh, right on. That would be perfect.
So that's the main thing and how I'm trying to solve the testing problem.
Yeah,
I probably need to make a couple changes to it, but
so I actually, yeah, sorry. I actually have a friend that recently got a Steam Deck, so I am going to be harassing him to
download the demo.
borrow it, and so I can like play the game on that thing, because I think this game would be really good on it.
I want to, it will be. I want to actually release a new build or new demo version with all of the updated, well, a bunch of bug fixes and with the new menus. And then I already told you I'm adjusting the dialogue. So when you get treasure or when you learn a new skill or magic or combo or whatever, I'm changing that. I'm copying all the other RPGs that exist today where they make the dialogues around it really subtle. So it's smaller, it's readable, but it's kind of like the messaging system, like something has happened, here's what's happened.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like on the corner of the screen. Yeah, you got 500 pieces of Kupo.
Yeah,
but it's not going to like take up like a quarter of the screen with this big dialogue.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more subtle.
I think
that's not done yet though, but in the next demo that I post, it will be.
No, I think that's a good direction to take.
Yeah, I've thought about it for a long time, but I thought, I don't know, I don't have a background in UI, but I guess you can always just copy other people, and that's ultimately what we're doing.
But yeah. So another thing that I started doing, and this is again thanks to you, is I now climb stuff. So you brought me to what? Brooklyn Boulders?
Brooklyn Boulders. So before we went to Too Many Games in Philly, Gary came down and spent a week in New York. And Gerald, my husband, and I, every Saturday we go rock climbing. And Gary was here, so we made him come with us. And Gary fell in love with it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I didn't hate it. Like, I was scared, obviously. I think that first time I went up, like, I almost shit my pants. And I did the auto belay, right? So you don't get that tactile feedback.
What is auto belay? What is belaying in general? Let's make sure, because not everyone understands what that is.
Okay. So basically, I'm hooked up to this kind of like a machine that will help lower me down. I did not really feel that tactile feedback right away as soon as you jump off, right? So it actually feels like for a split second you're actually
second, yeah.
Yeah, but it does eventually catch, in a very smooth manner actually. So, there's nothing to actually worry about. But like I think I only went like halfway up, and I was like, oh my god, I'm too scared. I got to come back down. But yeah, that second climb when Gerald was
so Gerald was belaying you, and what that means is Gerald was tied into Gary, like there's a rope they use. Gary was tied in, and Gerald was also the counterweight to Gary. So when Gary climbed up the wall, if he slipped or fell or something, he would not fall. He would just hang where he is and would not fall.
Yeah, and that was very interesting because that second climb, I just went up. I didn't think about the heights. I was just focused on, I guess, the task, of going up. So yeah, I made it to the top, which is cool. It was probably the lowest level climb that you can do at that place, but it was pretty cool.
You did really good that day. I mean, you did a really great job. You climbed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and then so when I got back to Edmonton, like I had a crew here that bouldered every Saturday, and they've actually been pestering me for quite a while for me to go with them, and I've always kind of like said, yeah, eventually I'll go, whatever. So yeah, while I was there, I texted them that's like, yeah, I'm climbing walls right now, and then yeah, they pretty much said, yeah, like as soon as you get back, we have to go. And I've been going every Saturday since.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, right? Like this is really fun. So anyone who's never tried it before, totally recommend it. It's a great workout. If you can get over the sort of some of the fear of heights, but it is just so much fun. It's yeah, I can't
And
recommend it enough.
the gym I go to, like it seems like every week I go, I run into somebody that I know that I did not know climbed, which is very interesting. It's like every week I'm always running into like people that I know.
Seems like everyone's climbing now.
Yeah, and yeah, they've been doing it for years. I just never knew, probably because like it was not one of those things that ever came up, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, thanks for that, Blair.
Of
You
course.
introduced a new thing for me to do in my life that takes up chunks of my Saturday.
But it's a
Yeah, so
healthy thing, and it's fun, and it's good exercise. So yeah, keep doing it, G.
yeah,
And
but like I said, I
kickboxing.
have to do this like pretty much back to back with kickboxing,
Oh yeah,
because
that's painful.
that's when I train. So like currently my schedule is like at 11 I'd go kickbox. I'll have some time in between to like kind of eat something, and then I'll go straight to bouldering.
The climbing gym.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a little intense.
But at the same time, it's like I don't necessarily use all the same muscles, right? So I don't feel like I'm like physically fatigued.
Well, climbing
Maybe I'm
uses
just like mentally fatigued, I guess.
climbing uses a different your finer muscles, although it is a pretty good full body workout. But if you want to like build muscle mass, you got to do weights. Like climbing isn't going to be good for that, but it will still give you a good workout.
Yeah, well, I don't hate it, so I'm just gonna keep going until I either hate it or like I really love it.
I would probably say that I actually love climbing. I certainly don't hate it. I will go on the other end of the spectrum and say that I love it.
Yeah, I think for me like that journey's still ahead of me, right? Because I'm still a beginner, and I would say that I don't really know what I'm doing yet, but like once I get to the point where I sort of get it, I'm probably going to love it.
So it depends on which country you live in, or which gym you go to, and which scale you're using. But from what I read, that if you can, and this isn't bouldering, this is like doing the full wall climbing with ropes. If you get to 10B, that's the lowest level of intermediate. Like 10A is still considered beginner. And like this doesn't make any sense to anyone, but so the scales for rock climbing for just actually doing with a rope, the difficulty level seems to go up once there's, and they have these numbers in from that's 5, so it's like 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, 5.10A, 5.10B, 5.10C, 5.10D, and I go 5.11A, 5.11B, etc., all the way up to 5.12. But the difficulty level once you from 5.9 to 5.10A is incredible. It's like exponential, and then 10A to 10B is just even worse. And once you from there, it really focuses on grip strength, and it's like you're basically climbing a mountain. You have to rest. You can't do it all at once. You will halfway up the wall, you're going to take a break before you can keep going, because it just saps your strength. And Gerald and I are, well, Gerald can do more 10Bs than me. I've never successfully completed a 10B, but I can do the 10As, and that is exhausting in itself, and a lot of hard work.
Oh, you haven't really been climbing that long in
No,
terms
it's
of,
only been like
yeah.
4 months. So we made
Yeah,
progress.
so just think like after a year or two, like just think how good you're going to be.
That would be awesome. Yeah, it's kind of exciting because I am getting better. Every time I go, I get better.
Yeah, same here, which is like the exciting thing for me. Like I went in yesterday and I was just completely bagged from like the workout that I had before. I didn't even think I was going to be able to complete any like ones. So like when I was warming up, I just like, I felt like totally exhausted. But as the day went on, like I took it easy. Like I rested a lot. I sat around, I chatted with people, and yeah, I just crushed the walls that I attempted. It was awesome.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Like that feeling when you finish something, it's just like, yeah, I did this. I'm good at this.
Yeah, but then you watch other people do it. They do it with such ease and grace that it's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
it makes you feel bad. But I try not to focus on that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel bad. It's just like I'm just like more like amazed how easy it is for some people
For
to do
some
things
people,
that
yeah.
for things that like I am really struggling with.
Yeah, so Gerald and I are finally like buy a bag of chalk that we can hook to our harness, because one of the things that the gym was particularly hot this week because it's really hot in New York right now, and I was sweating a lot while I was climbing, and things that I could have probably done if I weren't sweating so much, because my hands were slipping off all the grips.
Mhm.
So I think I could have done better if like I had better. Well, first of all, if I weren't so sweaty, if I had chalk readily on hand, I could have done better.
Oh yeah,
Getting hardcore now.
your gym doesn't offer that to you.
Oh, it gives you chalk, but it's like on the ground level, and you put on your hands before you start climbing. But when
Oh,
you're sweating really heavily as you're climbing, the chalk is just all off your hands right away. It's just gone, and then you're slipping when you're trying to grab on the grips.
yeah. My gym just gives you a bag if you don't have one. They don't let you
Oh.
keep it, right? They just like, oh, here's a bag.
Oh,
It's
maybe they
kind of like
do.
a rental, right?
We've never actually asked, so maybe that is a thing, but it's probably worth it to get our own anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. Like our gym is like fairly air conditioned, so I don't have an issue with like sweaty hands or anything. And a lot of time there's like kind of like enough chalk on the holds to get my hands chalked up. So
Oh yeah.
I haven't really experienced too much like chafing and all that stuff. So I know like some other client friends of mine that climb, they have to chalk their hands like really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I really do now too, especially on the harder, like harder for me levels.
Oh yeah, do you remember that place you took me to after we went climbing when I was there?
Barbecue place.
Yeah, that was good.
That was the only place. That was the only time we've been there. Actually, we haven't gone back yet.
I was actually amazed how huge that place was.
Yeah, that stuff's rare in New York because the cost of real estate is just so ridiculous. So yeah, I mean that place needs to be full if they're gonna be able to stay open. I hope they succeed, because
yeah, and like it was big and it was like fairly well staffed too, right? And yeah, there was like quite a bit of people in there, but it wasn't full by any means.
Gerald and I went to this restaurant yesterday called Penny Bridge that's actually closing because their real estate's fairly large and they're not bringing in the people in the neighborhood they're in, and it's like actually right by the climbing gym. So it's kind of sad, because it's always sad when a place like that has to close.
Yeah, there's plenty of restaurants here in Edmonton that have closed. And it's just sad.
It is. So the last time we podcasted, we had Valentina on. We actually talked about cultural stuff for the first time.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if that was the first time we tried to tackle like something like a serious issue like that.
I think it was, at least that I can recall. Maybe we briefly mentioned things. We talked about COVID like very briefly, and I put like the disclaimer at the start of one podcast when I think I got COVID or after that or something like that. But I did put a disclaimer on it. I was worried about getting the YouTube COVID warning or whatever.
What is this YouTube COVID warning?
Oh, they just say like if you want you put this banner under your video or whatever saying click here for COVID-19 information or whatever.
Okay, yeah. So it's one of those like probably auto-generated ones where it's like,
yeah,
they get this AI to say if this guy mentions COVID, then you better put like COVID information on here. Just
yeah,
because
yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
Everybody and their mother always has their opinions on it, right? So
Oh yeah, it's very true. So I love that podcast, first of all. I learned a lot about Valentina's perspective, and that so men and women in general, like I mean, there's some truth to be said that we are very different. Um,
yes, we are different, and like yeah, like in my mind, I think like the way we express ourselves is very different.
yeah, and that's a generalization. And generalizations do have some truth to them. It's not gonna for a population, a generalization is generally true. For an individual, I mean, it's not necessarily true. So you can never use the population when you're looking at an individual. And that's the thing we tend to forget. But it's
Mhm.
also populations are important for actually sort of deciding public policy and how to attack certain issues or how to solve certain issues. Um, but I found for me, I've thought that all these things that corporate life is doing now, and I don't know how much is happening in Canada, but it's certainly happening in the US with the employee resource groups, with basically, so when we were young, and we were in like kids, I don't know if kids is the right word, but the thing was we were told not to talk about sex, politics, or religion at work. Those things were off topic. It was just you're there to get the work done. And now we seem to be in a world where we talk about sex, politics, and religion at work. We brought the things that are supposed to be faux pas of our younger days into the mainstream, and I'm not. It's not clear to me that that's actually the right way to handle this yet. But certainly there is an impact with talking about this because historically, I mean, like this has always gone back to like just history being men being the primary providers for their family and women being the people who stay at home and take care of the kids in the home. And we're learning as like our culture is changing exponentially almost every generation. Like there's so much more that we learn and want to change and improve. And the conversations around this, where, okay, is this actually a good change or a bad change, need to happen. And I honestly think that for me, and this is where the conversation of Valentina sort of maybe made me change my mind a little bit. I thought that in a workplace, this stuff does not belong. But when you've got people being treated a certain way based on an immutable characteristic, I don't think that's right. And Valentina, while her experiences were generally not terrible, did experience some. Like some of that did happen. Some people did have bias based on her gender. And that has always been fundamentally wrong for me. And even in my professional life, I've seen more of people bringing up their gender as a concern for the way they're being treated at work. And I'm always baffled by that because I think in my mind, I'm always like, you treat everyone equally, regardless of their immutable characteristics, regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation. You treat people for who they are. And but the fact that that doesn't happen, and the fact that people are human, that maybe some of the stuff does need to exist. These ERGs, these things that help people feel better in the workplace, feel comfortable, feel safer. Maybe until we sort of build a society where where we understand that everyone's going to be treated with respect at work, these things need to exist. But I would like to see them eventually go away, but who knows if that'll actually happen. But I don't know. That's my long rant and my sort of evolution on how I feel about this based on our discussion with Valentina. It was a really great discussion. I had a lot of fun on that podcast. I think it's one of our best podcasts.
So would you say, okay, so when you talk about ERGs, what does that mean?
The employee resource groups is what they stand for. So A lot of companies have them now. My employer has them. There's usually an LGBT one. So there's a Latinx, Latino, Latina. There's a one for women. There's one for like people of color, like mainly Black people. There's also one for like Asian Pacific Islanders. So it just really separates people based off of immutable characteristics, and that's not something I'm a fan of, because judging someone based off of solely on those things, again, works at a population level but does not work at an individual level. And that's not necessarily true at a
okay,
population level, because again, you're from different countries too. Like maybe someone with Asian descent grew up in the US, was born here, and culturally is far more American than he is from whichever Asian country he may have came from, he or she may have came from. So he or she may relate more to US culture than ethnically where he is from, where his family lineage is from. So then that completely changes the scenario there.
Okay, so I don't know, when you talked about the employee resource groups, I noticed that you listed quite a few different kind of subgroups within that, right?
Yeah.
So
it's all based off
when you say something like that, like it kind of makes me think like what actually exists like in my own company, because like my awareness of this kind of stuff is probably pretty lacking in terms of, you know, what things are there within my own company. And I don't think we have necessarily like separate groups for all these, like, I guess, like, what are these dividers? What were they for? Like, is this for people within your company to have a support?
Yeah, and it's a safe space for people of, you know, the idea is that you have a different experience in your life based off of the color of your skin or your gender or your sexual orientation or your gender identity. And obviously that does influence your life a little bit, but it's not the key influencing factor, I think. Like, I mean, maybe it is for some people, and this is where I may probably, and maybe we'll get attacked or I'll be criticized for this. I think there's certainly more to an individual than the color of their skin or their gender or their sexual orientation or gender identity. That is one aspect of a person, but it does not make up their complete identity. And that's where I think these ERGs kind of fail, because they are based off of one thing, an immutable characteristic.
Yeah, when there are like lots of other ones that you can measure someone with, right?
Yeah, and like, I'm gay, I have a husband, that's a part of my life, but it's not the defining factor of my life. You're Asian, you're Chinese by descent, but you're born in Canada. I don't know how much that influences your life.
A lot.
A lot, maybe a little. What?
But in a negative way, no. For the most part, in a negative way, no.
We'll talk about that a little bit.
I'm just another dude on the street, man. That's
yeah.
it.
I mean, that's kind of the way I feel. Like, I mean, the things that I do perhaps are certainly different than a straight person would do. Like, my husband and I go to a gay bar every now and then, and just like have drinks and hang out with other gay people and chat. It's like it's more of a social thing, and it's a space where there is sort of that. I guess that's the only commonality you can be guaranteed of, but we go to way more straight places than we do gay places and find wonderful people who treat us with respect and are kind to us.
Well, here's a question, and sorry to interrupt, but okay, so I hear the word safe space a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is how often do you feel that you're not in a safe space?
Almost never. I honestly go into a space assuming that people are gay friendly, or at the very minimum won't make a big deal about it.
I don't know. I find that like no one will make a big deal of it, usually when you don't.
Yeah, and
but like, let's say if you were walking through the mall and you were just shoving that down everyone's throat for no reason, I think they're probably going to react adversely.
And I think the same is true. Like, so there's always the argument that made is like, well, you can be straight and go like kiss your girlfriend or kiss your husband if you're a girl in public, and or hold hands or whatever, and no one will bat an eye. And like, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I think PDA is PDA. Some people are more comfortable with it in public than others, and I always feel a little awkward when like straight couples are like making out in public, and it's also kind of weird for me when gay couples are making out in public. I've seen both. I've seen affection on both sides, and it has nothing to do with sexual orientation. I just feel it's like, okay, that's great that you're expressing your feelings and and how you feel about your partner in public, but uh, do I need to see that? I don't care. Like, go home and like do your stuff, or go to a space that's, or go to a not so public space where and maybe I'm a little conservative in that regard. Like, it doesn't matter your sexual orientation, just why you have to. And it's like not like, if you like give a little kiss to someone, that's one thing, but if you're like full on making out, then it's like, okay, you go somewhere else.
I guess it's I don't know, like I don't really think about these things.
I mean, I see it in New York probably more than you see it in Edmonton, so I see it
Think
both.
so?
Yeah,
Like no
well,
PDA?
maybe I'm making a generalization or an assumption.
Oh,
You
because like
know,
yeah, I was at a kind of like a cocktail bar yesterday, and yeah, there was a couple on a date. They were
Mhm.
getting they were getting intimate,
Is a
but
straight couple?
yeah, but I didn't think anything of it. It's like, okay, yeah, they're
Yeah,
not a date. They're
you're
vibing.
not like, yeah, they're vibing, they're having a moment, which is fine. That's fine, and it's fine if a gay couple does it too. But if you're really going at it, I mean, go somewhere private. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Oh well, I'm usually with the I don't know, you do you thing.
Yeah, me too.
I'll
But
do
I
I'll do
mean,
the
it doesn't necessarily mean like I'm, I don't know. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a little bit more like, okay, if you're getting really into it, go home.
yeah, that's funny. I don't know. You sound like you've witnessed some stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I mean, New York, the gay population, well, especially where I live here, like there's a lot of gays here. And I'm totally for like holding hands and walking down the street, but I'm not necessarily for like getting super intimate in public. I think that's what you could say, and that goes regardless of your sexual orientation.
I guess it's that classiness that
Yeah, I
they
think it
have
has to
with
do with
you.
that. Yeah, because I mean, as I said when we were talking to Valentina, sexual orientation is one part of my identity. It is not my core identity.
Yeah. Well, I guess sometimes from uh like someone else's perspective, it's not necessarily about who they are, but what other people can do or use against you because of what you are.
And I think it's
That
getting a
becomes
lot harder now, and that's probably because of a lot of these sort of social movements with these ERGs. You can't use people's immutable characteristics against them anymore. It's not like it's not a big secret like, oh my god, you're gay, I'm going to hold this secret above your head and forever. It's like that doesn't work anymore, which is great. That is the way society should go. That is a free society.
like I didn't even know that was even going on in terms of like being like I guess like very blasphemous about it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep this secret from you. I'm gonna withhold opportunities because I don't like the way you are. I've always never thought that it was that forefront. I always thought it was like a lot more subtle or maybe even like unconscious
um
in terms of things that I witnessed anyway. But like
yeah, and maybe like, and that is the argument as to again why these things exist, why these ERGs exist, because the discrimination now is allegedly more underground than it used to be, and that I will judge you, but I'll never do it verbally or in your face, but through my actions I will keep you down in areas of your life that matter to you. And there is that argument, and I think that's again why these ERGs are important, because it does bring this to the forefront and makes that behavior far more unacceptable than maybe it was before, or calls it out for people who might otherwise not realize they're doing it, because some of it could be subconscious and they don't know they have these biases, and they're doing these things to keep people from going up in their careers or advancing in whatever they may be interested in doing more in. And that's net good. Now, there's conversations on the right, on sort of the right wing of the political spectrum, about a lot of these new policies being, I guess you could call it top down or enforced equity. And I think that is actually not a good thing, because I think advancement needs, like, progress in one's life needs to be organic, because if you do top down equity, you're going to enforce equity and you're going to cause harm to people. You're going to put people who should not be in certain jobs and roles in those roles, and keep those who have experience out of roles based off of an immutable characteristic. That's what's dangerous here. I think the ERGs are great, but I think enforcing equity from a top-down approach is wrong. I think that's I think that's not a net positive for individuals or for society as a whole. I think it has to be from the bottom up and organic. But I think it's the goal is good. The approach from a top-down perspective is wrong. I hope I don't get canceled after this podcast.
I don't think you will. I think you probably express yourself a lot better than I do sometimes. So
I'm trying to be fair.
mhm. Yeah, you seem to know a lot more about this stuff than I
I
do.
think about it a lot. I listen to a lot of this comes up on podcasts that I listen to. Like, I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. Lex Friedman talks with some of this sometimes, but he's mostly science, which is pretty awesome. But yeah, because it is cultural right now, and I don't know how it is in Canada anymore, but certainly it's very present in the US. And it's kind of causing the divide. Like, this is part of the cultural divide in the US,
Yeah,
which
for
is
me, I
concerning.
don't feel it as much. Not to the extremes that you're kind of expressing. I mean, like I do know, like, there's this stuff going on, and like, let's say within my own company, there is stuff going on in regards to, like, initiatives to try to kind of combat this kind of stuff, right? But
And I think these initiatives are good. I do like them. Like, I think ERGs, and like Valentina convinced me that these are necessary, but I mean, I don't think they're perfect, I guess is what I'm ultimately trying to say.
I don't ever think anything is supposed to be perfect,
Yeah.
right? It's just people trying stuff.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of that with this, and which is good. I mean, it causes us to be better as a society, and we have the ability now because we are a very rich society and very safe society. I mean, you can argue that the war in Russia, what's going on in China, COVID, and the inflation and the impending famine that's going to come as a result of all this is very concerning and will cause a lot of damage. But generally speaking, society in the West has been on an upward trend, and globally, we've been on an upward trend for generations. So let's talk. We're at about an hour now. Let's talk about the game, and then focus this back on
That's
a video
yeah,
game podcast.
that's perfect. Yeah,
You
because
know.
I can talk games.
Oh, actually, before we get into Karendow, I want to talk about some games I've been playing.
Oh yeah,
So, you saw this game when you were visiting for Too Many Games. You saw I showed you a little bit, at least, of Rise of the Third Power, which is a fantasy game that's based off of the rise of Nazi Germany. So basically, Rise of the Third Reich. And so there's like magic and stuff in the game. So obviously, it's not a complete retelling of World War II, but that game was incredible. I think it was RPG Maker, but the character is the story that they created, and they did. We talked about RFL on the podcast before, but Rise of the Third Reich, or sorry, Rise of the Third Power, was just a level above what they did with RFL. The graphics were better, the storytelling was phenomenal, the character development was just off the charts. Like they kept the consistency, and it's like watching an incredible movie or reading an incredible book, and it was like a 40-hour game, so it was quite long. It was just such a great game, and I have to, Stegosoft Studio, I believe, is the creator, and I just have to give them props. They did such a phenomenal job with that game, and I can't recommend it enough to anyone who's listening, that this is a game you should absolutely play if you like JRPGs. And it's like, I think it was RPG Maker, I don't really know for sure, but it was like a pixel art style JRPG, and the combat was pretty good. It's turn-based, typical fare for JRPGs, but it was good. It was decent. It wasn't my favorite, but it was good. And now I'm playing, so kind of changing topic again, I'm playing Live Alive. Have you heard of that one, Gary?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, actually, before we get into that, what did you think of Rise of Third Power when you saw it?
Okay, so that was the game that I watched you play for a bit, right? It was the one. I'm just trying to think what happened in that game while you were playing it.
Well, we did some side quests while you were watching.
I think you were. I think I kind of remember you were in like an opera house or something. Was that a thing or no? It did kind of have like a steampunkish
church.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing a side quest. We're retaking this town from the bad guys.
I remember the graphics being really good.
Yeah. And the story, the characters, they did a remarkable job on this game.
Like someone that just kind of witnessed like glimpses of it. Yeah, it seemed like a pretty cool game. I wouldn't be able to comment on story and characters and stuff just because I wasn't I didn't see enough of it, so I won't comment on that. But yeah, it just like kind of like off the bat, just kind of looked like a cool game, and like you said that you really enjoyed it. So
oh yeah, it was incredible. So on to Live Alive. I will say Rise of the Third Power is better than Live Alive. Live Alive is a old Super Famicom game that never came to the US, strictly in Japan. But Square has now, I think it's Square Enix, or at least I
think it's still Square Enix.
Yeah, I think they published it. I don't think they actually modernized it, because it's kind of very similar to Octopath Traveler in the art style. They did a 3D, 2D kind of thing in Unreal, the Unreal Engine, which I actually think looks terrible. So now I'm not through the game yet. I've only played through a couple scenarios. Because it's kind of like Saga Frontier, where you can pick a different scenario based on the character, or even a little bit like Octopath, where you pick the character, and each of the characters have their own individual stories. But it's fun. The Japanese translations, the story is very Japanese. Like the storylines are very, very Japanese. And I don't know if I like that so much. I'm starting to realize that I think Western-made JRPGs I enjoy more.
Can you clarify, like, what do you mean the story is very Japanese?
So the dialogue is just so stilted and not natural. But culturally, this is what you see in Japanese role-playing games historically. And I think they could have done a better job in the localization to make it more appealing to a Western audience, and not just. I think I find
but it sounds to me like they didn't do that at all. It sounds to be like they had this game and it's like, hey, let's just release it.
Yeah.
Or do you think they actually went
They went in and like made it 3D. Like they went in and like did their Octopath Traveler like makeover for it.
So it did get a makeover.
It did get a makeover. Yeah. It was entirely 2D on the Super Famicom. But this has like the 3D overlay in Unreal, so it looks like Octopath. Probably not as good looking as Octopath. Actually, Karendow looks better than this game. Like hands down, Karendow looks way better than this game.
Yeah, so it sounds to be like they probably didn't do any rewriting. They just took this
Just
game,
a
they
raw
gave it a
translation.
makeover, and then released it.
Yeah, so it was low budget, but it's not bad. It's not as good as Rise of Third Power, not as good as Karendow. But that's what I'm currently playing through. Next game I'm doing is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but that game was hella long, so I need to prepare myself for that one. You play anything, G?
Not really. I haven't really been
So
playing any
boring,
games.
Gary.
I don't know. There's no time for games anymore, man.
There's always time. You just have to make the time.
There's
Like
no time for games. I like I said, like my Saturdays are like full now because of this
when do you play
rock climbing thing that
Karendow?
you got.
When do you work on Karendow music? When do you do stuff for
I
Karendow?
I do all that on Sunday. Sundays
You
is
only
like
do
my
one day a
day.
week. Okay.
So
Well,
I
normally it would
like
be a
I have like I
Monday.
have to play the game now. I take screenshots and I got to do all like the social stuff, and yeah, I try to make Sunday the day because
Okay.
during the week, you know how it is. You go to work, you come home, you're toast.
I still do it 5 a.m. every day.
I
I
wish
love
I
it.
can wake up that early. Sometimes I can even get. Sometimes like when you wake up at 5 a.m. there, I have not even slept yet.
I know you have issues sleeping. But we won't get into that. So that scene that I wrote for Karendow that I sent you yesterday. So I don't anyone who's played the demo can't see the scene. It's later in the game. So there's a series of flashbacks where we do a lot of character development in the game, like maybe about 4 hours into the game. We do this really long cutscene and it's a lot of dialogue. So maybe you'll turn off some people, but the idea is that it's engaging. Hopefully, it's engaging enough that people enjoy it. So we rewrote the story between the general in the resistance and her father, and her father funds the resistance but has betrayed the king. So basically he's a dual agent. He's working for the government and for the resistance, and we flush his character out a lot when I rewrote that scene. And I think that was really important for his character and for the game, because that scene never really sat well. It was bland and boring. There was nothing that we learned about. There's nothing new we learned because we
About
already talked
Mikos?
about what with
About
Mikos.
Mikos?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
are we talking about okay.
Talking about Mikos and Eamon. So Mikos is this arms dealer, and Eamon is his daughter, one of his two daughters, and we've now
Yes, so
tweaked
she
the
has
story
a
a bit.
sister now
She has a sister
because
now, yes, because we're retroactively tweaking the story a little bit, and because it's important, it adds a lot to the game, so we're doing it.
yeah, like I was thinking the game was kind of missing some sibling dynamics, right? So I think maybe Abin's character was probably the perfect one to
I think it's
either
the
have
best
like
character to bring that in because Elmo and Telly are already like siblings.
yeah
They're raised together. They're like Elmo's aunt was Telly's foster mother, effectively.
yeah, and I think it like for them it has to mean something that they're both orphans, right?
Yeah,
Essentially, so
essentially, yeah.
yeah.
And then for Eamon, yeah, I think having her have a sister brings more to that dynamic, and we already have enough going on for Misha that we don't need to get into that more. And I don't want to provide too many spoilers for the game, but yeah, just when I'm actually able to get in, like when I'm making the game, when I'm working on when I'm doing an environment like the AI tower. So there's 3 AI towers in Karendow, a bit of a spoiler. They each have a different function. They're really long dungeons, they're really hard dungeons. But doing the first one, I got so sick of it. I keeping my motivation up while I was building that was really hard.
Do you feel like as you were building it, you couldn't achieve the vision that you wanted, or
I
it was
felt
just
like
was
the
it just
vision that I
technically hard?
wanted was taking too much time.
Okay, so it was grindy.
Yeah, and I worry about that for future areas because So there's another area that Sondolo's drawing right now. It's a quarry. It's like a rock quarry. It's basically a prison camp. I don't want to spoil too much of the story for anyone listening, but there's mine carts, and I want to make a dynamic there where you ride the mine carts and you flip switches. This has been done in plenty of games before. You flip switches to change the path of the cart, and then you have to ride it to the next area so you can finish the dungeon. So I want to do that in this space, and I know that that's going to be a pain in the ass too. Probably not so much to code, but maybe a little bit, but just to sort of like design, like from a dungeon perspective, you need to make it engaging and fun.
What is your process for doing areas? Do you have an idea of what you want to do? Do you draw it on a napkin or paper, or do you just jump right into?
It's all in my head. It's all in my head. I don't draw it out beforehand, but I do have an idea in my mind, and that's sort of the worst part. Is all our design docs for Karendow are all up here. So if I die or have a stroke or something, forget about it.
Do you think it would help you if you drew it out on paper?
No, I think it would just take too much time. And
okay, so just like it would just be another thing.
Another thing that needed to be done when I already had it up in my head.
Yeah. Unless
that's my process. It's just, but the thing is, if we say hired a level artist or environment designer or something like that, then I'd have to draw it out because I would need to get that. Like I already do that for Sondolo. I have to like put together sketches, and I hate doing that because it's just like time, and it's like, well, he needs to know what's in my head. And so he's doing tile artwork again, and he hasn't done tile artwork since the AI tower, and because I've been kind of doing it all myself. Because I've had a hard time figuring out how to communicate what I need to him. And it's like, I need to try because I can't do this anymore. So, and I finally was able to do it, and he's done a phenomenal job with his quarry. Like it looks phenomenal. You've seen some of the early screenshots, and he says he's going to have it all ready by tomorrow. So looking forward to that. But yeah, he did a great job, and I need to keep that up so I can keep doing more. So that's it for today. I know we took a month off, but we're gonna try and do this once a month at a minimum, Gary, right? Keep the podcast going. And thanks.
We'll just talk about random shit.
Yeah, we're gonna do more of this sort of off the cuff stuff. And I think it's fun, more interesting. And hope everyone who listened or watched enjoyed this. And if you are enjoying this, please like, share, and subscribe. We definitely need those extra views, and we just want to keep promoting our game and what we're doing, and hope you are having fun coming along for the ride. All right, till next time, see you later.